Previously on Donkey Kong Country. And now we move on to the mines, which I guess Donkey Kong has for some reason. Hello everybody! Welcome back to Retro Replay Donkey Kong Country. Last time we managed to complete World 1 and talk about my history with that level as well as my thoughts on the game, and now we've moved on to World 2. This world contains my favorite level in the entire game. It's not this one, that'll be the next one. For now though, we get to play as Winky the Frog, the newest of the animal companions that we get to play as in this game. Of all the companions, I talked about Rambi and Enguarde last time, due to the fact that Rambi and Enguarde were the only two I played as last episode. Now I get the chance to talk about the other two. Winky, as you can see here, is great for these super high jumps and getting across great distances, but his general mechanics going from side to side are a bit tricky given his hopping mechanics, and his hitbox seems to be a bit wonky sometimes. Case in point, it looked like I hit the B, but clearly the game had other ideas. But now that we're in the bonus stage, I get to talk about Espresso the Ostrich. And in my experience, outside of this bonus minigame, he's kind of a useless animal companion, the weakest of the four in my opinion. With the other animal companions, they at least have functions beyond just getting you from point A to point B. Rambi can charge through enemies, Winky can jump on enemies that Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong normally can't, and Enguarde is great for getting through the water and destroying underwater enemies that Donkey and Diddy can't once again. But Espresso? He can move fast and flap his wings, but most of the jumps in this game can be completed by Donkey and Diddy without any issue. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this bonus stage, Espresso's best when you're trying to get extra lives, not trying to play through a normal level, per se. And because of that, this is the only time I'm going to show the full footage of one of the animal bonus stages. They're mostly all the same and all they do is just net you extra lives. For now, we're back to Winky's walkway, and since I had the wonderful timing of losing Winky right before the bonus stage, I no longer have him. I believe I could potentially go all the way back to the start of the level to get him again, but like I mentioned with Espresso, even without the animal companion, all of the jumps in this game are able to be completed by Donkey and Diddy. You might lose out on a few potential bonus secrets, but I'm not trying to go for 100% here, I'm just trying to replay the game. And with that, we are moving on to my favorite stage from my childhood, Minecart Carnage. When I was little, I had a ton of Thomas the Tank Engine toys and would play with them a lot. Anything even remotely related to trains I would love, so this stage was a really special one for me. I do know that they did make a Thomas the Tank Engine game specifically for the Super Nintendo when I was really little because my dad tried to rent it from a nearby video store. Unfortunately, the cartridge didn't work, so we never got a chance to play it. Maybe I'll find a copy of it online somewhere and try it out someday, who knows. Regardless, it was train related, so I played the heck out of this stage. Even to this day, sometimes if I'm feeling nostalgic, I'll just boot this up on my Switch and just play this level over again. I've played it so many times that it's one of the few levels in just about any game from my childhood or even today that I have memorized down to a T. Not quite to the point where you'll potentially see me do like a "oh, I'm playing Minecart Madness blindfolded" challenge sort of video, but enough that I could exactly tell you when to expect the Kremlings and other enemies and obstacles to pop up throughout the stage. Folks will talk about their favorite game levels from when they were kids. Stuff like Mario 1-1, Kokiri Forest from Ocarina of Time, Delfino Plaza from Mario Sunshine, things like that. That's what this stage is for me. It's my favorite stage of all my old games from growing up, and with one last stretch of jump over Kremlings and a pretty challenging gauntlet if you aren't expecting it right at the very end, and oop, there he is, we've reached the exit. And that was Minecart Carnage, still to this day, one of my favorite levels of all time. Moving on to Bouncy Bonanza, another cavern level. This is a stage that I believe epitomizes what I was talking about last time in terms of the cavern stages being a bit more difficult. It looks like every other level you've played up to this point. You just jump across a few gaps, jump on a few enemies. But like here, there are some new twists and turns that you have to watch out for. Like with any good platformer, be it this, Mario, or any other, enemies will speed up, change tactics, change patterns, and try to throw you off as you go further along. And the later you go into the game, the more difficult the general platform becomes, so those enemy changes become much more important. Although at the rate I'm going, I'm gonna talk your guys' ears off with how much I say like the cavern's this, the cavern's that. So instead of just keeping talking about things I've already talked about in previous episodes, I think I'm gonna try something different. First off being the caverns and some things I have memories with. When I was in 6th grade, I actually got to go to Mammoth Cave, and Land Alive was that a breathtaking experience. It was a part of a middle school trip that started in Columbus. We made our way down to the cave itself and did a tour there, which would culminate in a trip to Space Camp down in Alabama. And Space Camp made up the crux of the trip. Mammoth Cave was a one-day stop, but Land Alive was breathtaking. If you ever get the chance, I can't recommend it enough. Not just because of the fact that it is a historic cave, but just the fact that it is so beautiful. I have been fortunate enough to experience many natural wonders in this world through trips. There are very few things that can compare to what I saw in Mammoth Cave, just the sheer scope of it. And not just obviously the large cavernous areas, but also the smaller areas with beautiful naturally forming rock areas. We went through an area called Fat Man's Agony and Tall Man's Misery, and they were both really beautiful in the way the rocks were formed. I hope I get the chance to go back there someday. I'd love to visit again. But until that time, I just have to rely on what memories and pictures I have of that trip. The reason I bring this up and I'm thinking about this right now is because I believe a week or so ago, my pastor talked about a trip he took to Mammoth Cave and something that one of the tour guides did when they went through the cave. Obviously, the cave has some form of electric lighting to help make things visible within the cave itself so that people don't get lost within its, well, massive scope. But he talked about how they turned the electrical lights off and that it was pitch black, like an absolute darkness. And then when the tour guide struck a match, there was just enough light so people could see, but it was such a unique sight. I honestly would love to go on another tour and experience that. But now that we've completed that, it's on to Stop and Go Station. This one is a really unique, gimmicky level, but it's honestly not that hard once you figure it out. An interesting thing for me personally though, I will freely admit, I was a wimp as a kid. I was scared by just about anything that I had not seen 1,000 times before. But somehow, the monsters in Stop Go Station never freaked me out. Like, they had like pretty darn freaky designs all things considered, but I never really had a nightmare about them. That was really weird for me because I remember when I was really little, I saw Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit in theaters with my family. I had nightmares about the Were-Rabbit! The Were-Rabbit's the goofiest creature design I've ever seen, and I had nightmares about it, but not these weird things? I have no idea what my brain was thinking when I was little. I was so uptight about what I watched. I have seen the old VHS of Speed Racer the movie, which technically wasn't even a movie, it was just a couple of episodes cobbled together. So many times I could probably recite every single line from both episodes word for word for you without hesitation. But goodness forbid I try to go see Finding Nemo without kicking and screaming because I might get nightmares. I swear I was such an idiot as a kid. Obviously I've gotten better, but even to this day I still don't really like horror. When I was 15 and a freshman in high school, my marching band took a trip down to Disney World where we performed the Parade of the Magic Kingdom and then had the rest of the day at the park. I remember at the very end of the day, me and my friend Jackson, we were going around the park all day, and we decided to ride the Haunted Mansion. I wasn't too thrilled about it. And you know, of course, the famous stretching room scene when you go down the elevator to the ride vehicles. The paintings stretch, there's a bit of thunderclap, and you look up and you see a hanging dead body. I was so nervous of being scared that I actually looked down at the floor when the lights dimmed. I didn't even know it was a hanging body at the top until years later when I saw that clip on YouTube. I believe I only found out the fact that it was a hanging body up there by one of the Channel Awesome theme park reviewers, either Theme Snark or Tony Goldmark, I forget which one. Man, that was a tangent and a half. We went all the way through Stop and Go Station and then found ourselves in the first and one of the only ruined stages, I believe, in this entire game. Kinda makes me wonder not only what returning levels came back in the future DK Country games, but also what levels they came up with that were new designs. But enough about that, we've got the Enguarde bonus stage to get extra lives. Like I said with Espresso, I'm gonna cut ahead and not really focus too much on this. We got ourselves the double, we got ourselves a ton of extra lives, And we are moving on. And it's a good thing we got those extra lives, because coming up after the halfway barrel, I kind of got on a tear of constantly dying. I decided to edit it out just for the sake of time, but I believe we can add like maybe, let's say, 10 total deaths to the tally. So including my one death to Big Naughty at the end of World 1, let's say I'm at 11 deaths for the full game. And with that, we reach the halfway barrel, and here's the winning run. A common trope as we get deeper and deeper into this series is that the less I've played a level, the more I'll struggle with it. And this level is no exception. Even though it's World 2, it's not one that I've played a ton, so I don't know all the patterns and timing for everything. Which is a little embarrassing, seeing that this is only the next to last level of World 2. But with that, jump over him, quick grab of a Diddy Kong, jump onto Winky again, try to avoid losing him, because even if the animal companions aren't that great in the long haul, they're a great shield to keep you alive as you try to finish a stage. You might miss out on a few bonuses here and there, but for finishing the stage, losing Winky is not all that bad. Case in point, some of my deaths when I tried to jump over that vulture resulted in me accidentally hitting the nut and losing Winky, and then these obstacles near the very end were a bit of a trick, because I was like, well, what the flip do I do now? But at long last, we've finished the level, and we're on to the final boss of World 2. Good old Necky. This is another boss where I feel like it's kinda just a bit too samey. Like Big Naughty before, this variation of the boss will appear again in a later world, and it's pretty simple. Just jump on the thing, hit the head, that's about it. I'm not saying it's bad. It is a very fun boss. I just wish that instead of using that same style again, the dev team actually created more unique bosses. But that's enough of that. We've completed the mines, and now I guess we're off to the Ewok village. Thank you all so much for watching this second episode of Retro Replay. Please like, share, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.